Trent Alexander-Arnold has gone from being a key player, expected to lead England to international glory, to becoming a scapegoat fans are relieved to see on the bench. And guess what? This shift is all due to Gareth Southgate's experiment during the Euros. A player of Trent's calibre doesn't just become poor or average overnight. Everyone, including rival supporters, agrees that he is a generational talent. Yes, we are here halfway through the Euros and Trent has been hung out to dry in 2 of England's games as he was benched for the group stage 3rd game and the round of 16 tie against Slovakia. So why aren't England getting the best out of Trent on the international stage? How are his performances all due to Southgate's failed experiment? And how does the Liverpool star compare to Kyle Walker? Well, let's dive deep into that today, but before we do, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool deep dives. So to understand what's happening with Trent, we first need to examine what Gareth Southgate is doing with the squad. This current England team is packed with both explosive talents and experienced players. Unfortunately, it seems like Southgate has no idea how to manage such a vast pool of talent. First of all, even though the squad is impressive, there are some glaring issues, and they all come down to the manager and his staff. For example, Braithwaite, who had a stellar season with Everton, was left at home, leaving England with no natural left-footed defender. What's even more baffling is that Southgate decided to take Luke Shaw, who only featured 15 times for Manchester United last season and has been unfit to play for 4 months now. And so, Kieran Trippier, a right-back throughout his career, had to once again play on the left under Southgate. Not to mention Marcus Rashford, who was left at home. As much as we hate to say it, the Red Devils winger would have made a perfect combo with Trent on the pitch, but I'll explain this later on, so stay with us. Another sign of Southgate struggling to manage this squad is how he's trying to play his best players all at once. Phil Foden, for example, had his best season with Manchester City by playing more centrally, where he can receive on the half-turn and combine with his teammates. But for England, we find Foden isolated on the left-hand side, which essentially removes any threat he can pose. This is because Southgate wants to play both Foden and Bellingham at the same time. Consequently, Jude, who excelled at crashing the box with Real Madrid, often finds himself occupying the same zones as Harry Kane, who excels at dropping deep and linking up play. So you get the picture. Southgate is throwing his best players onto the pitch with no balance whatsoever. Now you're probably thinking, what does this have to do with Trent? Well, it's the same thing that's happening with him. Southgate wanted to play both Alexander-Arnold and Kyle Walker at the same time, which is why we found Trent officially featuring as a midfielder, a failed experiment from the start. Yes, it's true that many people want to see Trent play as a midfielder. Even here at Liverpool Unwrapped, we often discussed how the 25-year-old should keep inverting under Arne's slot in the same way he did in the last seasons with Klopp. But what many do not understand, including Southgate apparently, is that there is a difference between zone occupation and dynamic arrivals. Again, let us explain. Zone occupation is when a player remains in a designated area assigned on the team sheet. For example, a left winger spends the majority of the game high and on the left side, while a lone pivot stays in the central deep areas in front of the defensive lines and so on. Zone arrival is completely different. A fullback, for example, makes overlapping and underlapping runs to arrive in the final third, but doesn't occupy those areas for the full game. Similarly, a number 9 arrives in deep spaces to link up and hold up the ball before darting forward to occupy the box. With Liverpool, it's true that Trent played in midfield, but he did so by arriving in central areas after inverting from his right back position. He did not start and occupy the midfield zone for Liverpool. As you can see from his season heat map, the player was found both wide and in the right central spaces. But unfortunately, that's exactly what Southgate decided to do with the players. Some might argue that there is no difference if Trent performed well moving into the midfield with Liverpool, then he should be able to play better when starting as a midfielder. But let us continue with our explanation. When inverting from the right back position into midfield, or even acting as a situational centre back, Trent often receives the ball facing play. This allows him to be fully aware of his surroundings, have multiple passing angles, and enough time and space to make optimal decisions. He thrives in these circumstances, utilising his best traits in possession, his passing range and vision. He often splits defences by feeding runners in behind with pinpoint accurate long balls. The best example of this was his performance against Aston Villa in the early stages of last season. In this way, Trent has become a creative machine from deep for Liverpool, while also having the freedom to surge forward and deliver lethal crosses into the penalty box from the edge of the area. Despite missing 10 league games, Trent still topped the league among fullbacks in multiple metrics, such as most forward and long passes, as well as passes into the final third and into the penalty box. Not only that, but he also finished 18th among all players in different positions for key passes with 64. That's even more than Kevin De Bruyne's 59. Now for England, it's a completely different story. By starting him as a midfielder, Southgate has limited Trent's ability on the ball because he was asked to occupy central zones rather than make dynamic arrivals into those areas. He's also been tasked with dictating the tempo and circulating possession. Although he's capable of doing so, the way he often found himself receiving the ball facing his own goal instead of facing the play essentially nullified his abilities and highlighted his weakness instead. Not only that, but by throwing him into the midfield, Southgate has denied Trent the opportunity to shine in his natural position, right back, the same position where he won the Premier League and the Champions League. Now, we're not saying that Trent spent all of his time on the pitch facing his own goal. Of course, there were occasions where he could have utilised his skills. He often had the ball and looked for runners to feed with his spot-on long balls. But wait a minute, Southgate didn't even start those kind of players. Out of Kane, Foden, Bellingham and Saka, only the Arsenal star can be considered a runner into space, although he much prefers to have the ball at his feet. This video is sponsored by Clothing. Clothing is a Liverpool clothing site owned by match-going fans. Each design is limited edition and is perfect to wear on a match day, on the terraces at Anfield, down your local, or cozy in the comfort of your own home. As stated, each design is limited edition, and if a product is showing out of stock, they will not be restocking the item, so if you have your eye on something, grab it fast. Lastly, Clothing wants fellow Reds to be 100% satisfied with their orders, so if there is a reason you're not happy, they will refund you with no questions asked. Head over to clothing.com or down into the link in the description to get all of your Liverpool merchandise. Anyway, let's get back into today's video. Anthony Gordon, the only player in the England squad capable of making those runs in behind for Trent to spot, has only played a single minute. Oh, and this brings us to the Rashford point we talked about earlier. As much as we hate to say it, Rashford, in form or not, is one of the most lethal wingers in the world. His runs in behind, pace and physicality makes him a nightmare for any defence. Combine that with Trent's accurate long balls and you have a combo that can unlock any defensive line. But Southgate decided to leave United's winger back home, and as we mentioned, Gordon has only played a single minute. This is exactly how you nullify Trent's abilities. You put him deep, facing his own goal, with no runners to feed. Trent's ability to unlock defences from deep and his creativity in the final third have both been nullified by the manager's choice, and the stats confirm this. So far in the Euros, Trent has made 0 through balls, just 3 crosses, with only 1 being successful, and has averaged just 0.17 expected assists. Can you imagine a player of Trent's quality and ability on the ball having these poor numbers in 129 minutes played? To make it worse, Southgate has decided to bench Trent in the last 2 games, as if England's poor build-up and lack of threat was down to him. So what should Southgate do to get the best out of Trent? Well, there's a very simple solution. Sure, Southgate has every right to want to play his best players, but he should at least play them in their natural positions. For Trent, his natural position is right back, and that must be his spot if a side wants to dominate games and unlock tight defences. Yes, you've guessed it right. We're suggesting that Trent must start over Kyle Walker, so again, let us explain. Some might argue that City's veteran is much better defender, but if you closely watch him, you'll figure out that isn't the case. Kyle Walker is one of the fastest defenders in the world, and it's impressive that he still has the speed and physicality despite being 34 years old. That we can all agree on, but since when did pace equal good defending? Walker's positional awareness is average at best, and it's his pace that often covers the weaknesses. It gives him the edge in the 1v1 situations and allows him to get back and win races against opponents. But if his pace can't save him, we saw this when Mainu scored United's second goal against City during the FA Cup final, where Walker's timing and positioning left the 18-year-old all alone inside the box. And no, this poor aspect of Walker's defending isn't due to his age, it's always been there. Remember Perisic's equaliser in the 2018 World Cup semi-final? Yes, it was Walker's poor positioning that allowed the Croatian the opportunity to snatch the ball. Walker's average positioning, timing and poor back post defending are often masked by his impressive pace, so he is not a better defender than Trent. And while we're at it, let us address something real quick. The narrative of Trent being a poor defender is just outrageous, isn't it? Yes, he has his vulnerabilities, but to claim that he is useless in defense is just baseless. We debunked this myth in an older video, proving that that the Liverpool system, especially during the 2022-2023 season, is what made Trent vulnerable in the defence. We also brought some stats such as his tackles, ball recoveries, and low number of errors leading to opponent shots to prove that Trent isn't as bad defensively as some make him out to be, so make sure you do check that video out. But for now, let us bring you some more fresh stats to prove our point. This season, Trent won 26 tackles out of 39. That's more than United's Wan-Bissaka, who's known for his tackling skills, and more than Kyle Walker, who won 24. And guess what? Trent has also made more interceptions than City's right back, with 31 compared to Walker's 27. To top it all off, Trent made more loose ball recoveries with 176 against Walker's 152. So in what world other than 1v1 situations is Kyle Walker a better defender than Trent? We said it earlier and we'll say it again. Southgate wants and needs to play his best players, and in this England squad, Trent is their best right back. The 25-year-old needs to be deployed in his natural position with a license to invert into the midfield or bomb forward. John Stones can play Ibrahima Konate's role of being safety net behind Trent when he leaves his position, providing more security to the back line. For Trent, his ability to influence the game from deep will be much better when inverting from right back to join the midfield. And by being deployed on the right hand side, he will be able to provide overlapping and underlapping runs to Saka, bringing his lethal crosses and smart passes into the final third. It's time for England to play the way they should. These dodgy wins and reliance on individual brilliance can only take you so far. With the Three Lions having a golden opportunity to reach the semis and even the final, heck, when you're watching this they might even be out. Southgate needs to better use his squad to give the country the best chance to bring the title home. Trent's experiment must end, and as we proved earlier, he's not a lesser defender than Kyle Walker. That's why he deserves to start at the right back position, bringing his extraordinary ability on the ball into midfield and the final third. So what do you guys think about our analysis on Trent's current issue with England? Was Southgate's experiment a failure? And did we convince you that Trent is not as bad defensively as people think? Let us know your thoughts down there in the old comment section below, and if you enjoyed today's video, do consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel for more. Thank you, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.